Hello, students, and welcome to our lesson. On Monday, we will see period 3 for this lesson, and on Tuesday, the 20th, we will see period 6 and 7 because we are on our map schedule. So let's keep that in mind. So for our do now, we will have a question that asks us to think about the difference between surviving and thriving. And I want you to think about that and write about that. Our objective for today is we will add mixed numbers, and we'll talk about what those are. Our essential question, what is a mixed number, and how do we add mixed numbers together? Also, kind of a bonus, how do we know when our answers are fully simplified? Our assignment will be to watch this video and complete the assigned work. Our exit ticket will ask us to respond to this question: what is the difference between an improper fraction and a mixed number? Remember, we do our do now and our exit ticket in Teams using the draw feature, and our lesson notes and our homework are completed on paper. For homework, I just want you to complete any work that you have not finished in class. And I would like you to explain to someone at home the difference between a mixed number and an improper fraction. When you talk about something, it really helps you solidify your understanding of it. I want to remind you that we have our virtual open house on Wednesday from 12 to 3 and from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. So parents and families will not come to the school, but we will have a Zoom experience for you. Remember, when you do your quizzes or other assignments in Teams, you have to click See Results, and that will submit the work to me so I can see what you've done. And on Wednesday, please look for your mini quiz in Teams, and it'll be available at 7 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon, and that's when we want to get that finished by. So let's take note of this. This is an important date and an important time every week. So remember, you want to do all your work when it is assigned. Don't wait and let it go till the weekend or till another day. If you do that, you'll really fall behind in your understanding. And you don't want to do that because that is a scary thing to do. So let's not do that. So our do now question asks why it is important to go from surviving an event to thriving in the world. And hopefully before you started watching this video, you thought about that as we talked about it, and I'd like you to answer and write a thought or two about that. Our exit question today, again, what is the difference between an improper fraction and a mixed number? And really good if you could go home and explain it to somebody else. Maybe you have a younger sibling you could explain it to. That really helps us. When we talk about something, helps us to understand it. So we're going to talk about adding mixed numbers. And the steps we're going to go through are finding the least common multiple of both denominators. We've done that a little bit. And that will be our new common denominator. We will rewrite each fraction using this new common denominator. Then we will add the numerators and keep the denominator, and we'll add the whole numbers. And if necessary, we will simplify. Let's go to a blank sheet of paper here so we can do a few examples together. So suppose I have our first example. Suppose I have 3 and 5/8, and I want to add to that 1 and 1/2. There really are a couple different ways to approach this. Let's look at those. One way is to find your common denominator first. Well, if I have an 8 and a 2, I know that 2 is a factor of 8. So therefore, I know that I can have a denominator of 8. And so I can rewrite these fractions as 3 and 5/8. That one will not change because it already has 8 as a denominator. and 1 4/8. How do I know it's 4/8? Well, let's do a sidebar over here. Let's do some side work. We're going to take that 1/2 and we want it to equal eighths. Well, what do we do when we want to get from 2 to 8 is we multiply by 4 because 2 times 4 equals 8. Whatever we do to the bottom, we also have to do to the top. Numerator, whatever we do to the denominator, we have to do to the numerator, and 1 times 4 is 4. So that means that 1/2 equals 4/8. So let's put our 4/8 over here. So now we can add the fractions, which is denominator of 8, 5 plus 4 make 9, and now we'll add these whole numbers. 3 plus 1 makes 4. The problem here, and we're not done yet because we have a problem. We have here an improper fraction. We cannot keep that answer. We need to turn 9/8 into a proper fraction, and here's what we'll do. We know that 9 is divisible by 8 one time. 1 times 8 is 8, which leaves us with 1 left over. That means 1 1/8. So that 9/8 equals 1 1/8. So we're going to take that whole 1, okay, and we're going to add it to the 4. So 4 plus 1 equals 5. And then we will only have 1/8 left over, and that will be our final answer. Let's try another one of these. So now if we have, let's say we have 2 2/3 plus 2 1/4, we can find that common denominator. Well, the common denominator of a 3 and a 4 is found by looking for multiples of 3 and 4. So multiples of 3 are 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Multiples of 4 are 4, 8, 12, 16. Well, we have a common multiple of 12, so that will be our new denominator. So 2 and something twelfths plus 2 and something twelfths, okay? We've converted this to this, this to this. Now, what is this numerator going to be? Well, we have to go back and we have to say, what did I do in order to convert the 3 to the 12? Well, I multiplied 3 by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm looking over here at my multiples. So I will also multiply the 2 times 4, which will give me 8. Now, what did I do to get from 4 to 12? Well, I multiplied that 4 times 1, 2, 3. So I will multiply the 1 times 3, which will give me 3/12. So if I add my whole numbers, 2 plus 2 make 4. Let's put my denominator of twelfths. 8 plus 3 is 11. And that is a fully simplified answer. It's not the 11/12 is not an improper fraction. That's a final answer. Let's try a little harder one. Let's try 4 1/8 plus 2 3/10. And I'm going to show you a slightly different way to do these problems. We have at times converted mixed numbers to improper fractions. We've done that before. You can convert the mixed number to the improper fraction before you add. So let's go over to our sidebar over here and look at how that would work. So we have 4 and 1/8. If we want to convert that to a mixed number, we multiply 4 times 8. So 4 times 8 equals 32. Excuse me, I almost said 24. Equals 32. And then we add the numerator. And then we put that new number over the same denominator. So this 4 and 1/8 then becomes 33/8. Now let's work on the 2 and 3/10. So we multiply 10 times 2, which is 20, and then we add the numerator, which makes 23, and we put it over the same denominator, 23/10. And now we still can't add them. What's the problem? Well, the problem is that we still have different denominators. When we add and subtract fractions, remember, we have to have same denominators. So let's think, what are the factors of 8? 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. What are the factors of 10? 10, 20, 30, 40. Well, that's going to be our new common denominator. So our new denominator will be 40 for both fractions. Now, what did I do to get from 8 to 40? Well, 40 divided by 8 is 5. So 8 times 5 is 40. What is 5 times 33? So whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So I need 33 times 5 is 15, 1, look at this, 165/40. I said we were doing a little harder one. What did I do to get from 10 to 40? Well, 40 divided by 10 is 4. So if I multiplied 10 times 4 to get 40, then I multiplied 23 times 4 for the numerator, which will equal, 4 times 3 is 12, 92/40. Now, we keep the denominator and just add the numerator. So 165 plus 92 is 9 and 6 are 15, carry the 1, 257/40. And that is that is an improper fraction. We do not want to keep that. We need to make that into a mixed number. So we're going to take 40 and divide it into 257. And I'm going to guess at 6 because 6 times 4 is 24, and that looks pretty close. So 240, subtract. So it looks like my answer, my final answer, will be 6 and 17/40. Now, I just showed you 2 ways to do this. You get to decide which way you think will be harder or easier. Some people like to add the whole numbers separate from the fractions, and some people like to do this. They like to convert everything into an improper fraction first and then do their addition. So that's kind of up to you. Whichever method will be easier for you to work these problems. So let's get started on some of these. Well, we've done the first 3. We have this one, which was 5 and 1/8. And the second one, we got an answer of 4 and 11/12. And the third one, we got an answer of 6 and 17/40. and that cannot be reduced any further. So let's go on to number 4. It looks like our common denominator will be 15 because 15 is the least factor that is divisible by both 3 and 5. So we will have 3 and something 15ths plus 1 and something 15ths. So 3 goes into 15, 5. 3 times 5 is 15. 2 times 5 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15. Therefore, 2 times 3 is 6. 3 plus 1 make 4. 10 plus 6 makes 16 15ths. We have an improper fraction here. We cannot leave that. We know that 16 is divisible by 15 one time, so that our 4 now becomes a 5 with 1/15 left over. Okay, let's move on to number 5. So I see a 2 and a 10. Well, 2, it so happens, is a factor of 10. So 9/10, I'm not going to need to change that. But 2, I will need to convert to tenths. So let's rewrite our problem as 5 and something tenths. Well, 2 times 5 is 10, therefore 1 times 5 is 5. Plus, and I said we won't need to change this because 2 is a factor of 10. So 5 and 0, this is an invisible 0 over here. There's no 1 there. It's an invisible 0. 0 and 9/10. So that would equal 5, and 9 plus 5 is 14/10. 14 is, there is one group of 10 in 14, so that raises our 5 to a 6 with 4/10 left over. And 4 and 10 are both divisible by 2, which leaves us 6 and 2/5. So always simplify as far as you can. If we have a 3 and a 5, we know our common denominator will be 15. So this will be 6. 3 times 5 is 15. 2 times 5 is 10. Now, 5 times 3 is 15, and 4 times 3 is 12. 6 and 3 are 9. 10 and 12 are 22. And there's a full group of 15 in there because 22 divided by 15 equals 1 and 7/15. So when we add this to this, add the 1 to the 9, that gives us 10 and 7/15. We have a 10 and a 5 as our denominators. So 5 is a factor of 10. 5 times 2 is 10. So we can go with 10 as our denominator when we rewrite this problem. So we have 4 and 1/10 plus 4 and 5 times 2 is 10. 1 times 2 is 2. 4 plus 4 equal 8. We're working in tenths. 2 plus 1 is 3. That's a final answer. What will our common denominator be here? If we have a 5 and a 6 as denominators, let's think of multiples of 6. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. Well, that is also a multiple of 5. So 30 will be our new denominator. 2, now, what's the numerator? 5 times 6 is 30. 1 times 6 is 6. plus 3 and how many 30ths? Well, 6 times 5 is 30, so we multiply the numerator by 5, which is 25. And that would give us 2 plus 3 is 5, and 6 plus 25 is 31 30ths. And that would give us, we have 1 whole 30th here. 31 is divisible by 31 times, so the 5 becomes a 6 with 1 30th left over. Now, pause the video, please, and I want you to take some time and try to do the next group by yourself. Okay, I hope you tried some of these on your own. Let's change our color. And we just did one with 6 and a 5. We know our denominator needs to be 30. So 6 times 5 is 30. 1 times 5 is 5. Plus, we have our 3. How many 30ths? 5 times 6 is 30. 3 times 6 is 18, which equals 1 plus 3 is 4, working in 30ths. 18 plus 5 is 23, and that is already simplified. There's no factor that goes into both 23 and 30, so that is a final answer. If we have a 5 and a 4, let's think, what will our new denominator be? Factors of 4 are 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. There we go. That's also a factor, a multiple of 5. 5 is a factor of 20. So our new denominator will be 20. 10. Now how many 20ths? Well, 5 times 4 is 20. 2 times 4 is 8. Plus 4, and how many 20ths? Well, 4 times 5 is 20. 1 times 5 is 5. So let's add them up. 10 plus 4 is 14. Our denominator is 20. 8 plus 5 is 13. That's our final answer. Okay, we have a 2 and a 6. Well, 2 is a factor of 6. 6 is a multiple of 2. So we can go with 6 as our new denominator. So we won't have to change anything on this right-hand quantity. So we're going to start with 9, and how many 6? Well, 2 times 3 is 6, and 1 times 3 is 3. Plus, and we said we don't need to change this. 9 plus 3 is 12. We're working with 6. 3 plus 5 is 8. But this is an improper fraction. 8 divided by 6 is 1, with 2 6 left over, and we can reduce 2 6 to 1. 2 goes into itself once. 2 goes into 6 3 times. So when we add 1 and 1/3 to the 12, we have 13 and 1/3. Okay, here we have a 7 and a 2. Well, what are the factors of 7? 7, 14. Okay, that's a multiple of what's, I was meant to say multiples of 7. And 14 is also a multiple of 2. So our new denominator will be 14. 4, and how many 14ths? Well, 7 times 2 is 14. 6 times 2 is 12. Plus, next fraction, 2, and how many 14ths? Well, 2 times 7 is 14. 1 times 7 is 7. Let's add the whole numbers first. 4 plus 2 is 6. 12 plus 7 is 19. And this is an improper fraction. 19 over 14 is the same as 1 and 5/14. So we will add that to the 6 to give us 7 and 5/14. Okay, moving along, let's move on to number 5, 6, and 7. So number 5, we have denominators of 10 and 3. So multiples of 10 are 10, 20, 30, and 30 is also a multiple of 3, so that will be our new denominator. So we will have 3 with a denominator of 30 plus 5 with a denominator of 30. 10 times 3 is 30. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 10 is 30. 1 times 10 is 10. 3 plus 5 equal 8. Again, we have a denominator of 30. 10 plus 3 is 13. And that is simplified as far as we can. That's a final answer. Okay, let's move on to number 6. We have denominators of 8 and 5. Let's look at factors of 8 are 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. 40 is also a multiple of 5. That will be our new denominator. So we have 40 for a denominator. So 8 times 5 is 40. 3 times 5 is 15. Plus 4, and we have a denominator of 40. 5 times 8 is 40. 2 times 8 is 16. We'll add the whole numbers first. 3 plus 4 is 7. And 15 plus 16 is 31. And that is a final answer. We cannot simplify that. 7 and 31/40. This one's a little easier for us at first. We have an 8 and a 2 as denominators, and we know that 2 is a factor of 8. So we can use 8 for our denominator. That means the first fraction does not change. So we have 7 and 3/8 plus 2, and how many eighths? Well, 2 times 4 is 8, 1 times 4 is 4. So let's add our whole numbers. 7 plus 2 is 9, and our numerators, 3 plus 4 is 7, and 9 and 7/8 is a final answer. And let's move up to here. We have a 3 and a 2. And the factors, multiples of 3 are 3, 6, and 6 is also a multiple of 2. So our new denominator will be 6. So we are going to have 5. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. 5 and 4, 6, plus 11. And 2 times 3 is 6. So 1 times 3 is 3. We add the whole numbers first. 11 plus 5 makes 16. Excuse me. And a denominator of 6. 4 plus 3 is 7. So 16 and 7/6. This 7/6 is an improper fraction, which equals 1 and 1/6. So we add that to the 16, which gives us 17 and 1/6. Number 9, we see that 8 is a multiple of 4. 4 is a factor of 8. Therefore, we can use the 8 as our denominator. So we don't need to change the first fraction. 3 and 7/8 plus 4. Now, how many eighths? 4 times 2 is 8. 3 times 2 is 6. We add the whole numbers. 3 plus 4 is 7. working in eighths. 7 plus 6 is 13. That is an improper fraction. We need to take care of this 13 eighths. So if we have 13 divided by 8, that would be 1 5/8. We add that to the 7, which gives us 8 5/8, which is a final answer. I'm going to change our colors so we don't get mixed up. Here we have a 3 and a 5, and we know that when we're working with denominators of 3 and 5, our new denominator must be a 15. So, because the smallest common multiple of both 3 and 5 is 15. 5 times 3 is 15. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 5 is 15. 2 times 5 is 10. We'll add the 7 and the 4 to get 11. Working in 15ths, 10 plus 3 is 13. 11 and 13 is fully simplified. That's our final answer. Here we have denominators of 5 and 4. So multiples of 4 are 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and we know that 20 is a multiple of 5. So that will be our new denominator. So we have 2, and how many 20ths? 5 times 4 is 20, 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1, and again, how many 20ths? 4 times 5 is 20, therefore 1 times 5 is 5. We add the whole numbers. 2 plus 1 is 3. Working in 20ths, 8 plus 5 is 13. And that is fully simplified already, and that is a final answer, 3 13/20. And let's finish this page. So let's look at the multiples of 7. 7, 14. Well, 14 is an even number. That's also a multiple of 2. 2 is a factor of 14, so 14 will be our new denominator. So we will have 4. Now, how many 14ths? Well, 7 times 2 is 14. 5 times 2 is 10. Plus 2, and again, how many 14ths? Well, 2 times 7 is 14. 1 times 7 is 7. Add the whole numbers. 4 plus 2 is 6. Working in 14ths, 10 plus 7 is 17. That is an improper fraction. We have to simplify that. So 17 over 14 is 1 whole plus 3 14ths left over. And we cannot reduce that. So that will be added to our 6, which gives us 7 3/14 as a final answer. Okay, let's move on to number 13. 1 9/10 plus 3 2/3. Well, let's think about multiples of 10. Are they divisible by 3? We have 10, 20, and 30. And 30, yes, is divisible by 3. So we're going to have some larger numbers here. So we're going to have 1, and how many 30ths? Well, 10 times 3 is 30. 9 times 3 is 27. Don't be afraid of these numbers. Plus 3, and how many 30ths? Well, 3 times 10 is 30. 2 times 10 is 20. We'll add the whole numbers. 3 plus 1 is 4. And 27 plus 20 is 47/30. And 47/30 is improper. We have to reduce that. And we end up with is one group of 30 with 17/30 left over. We add that to the 4. which gives us 5 17/30. And the last one on this page, let's think about, we have multiples of 8, 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. There's our new multiples. So we're going to be working with denominator of 40ths. So 8, and how many 40ths? Well, 8 times 5 is 40. 1 times 5 is 5. Plus 1, and again, how many 40ths? Well, 10 times 4 is 40. 7 times 4 is 28. So 8 plus 1 is 9. 28 plus 5 is 33. 9 and 33/40, and believe it or not, that's our final answer. We cannot reduce that. So let's do some error analysis, and I hope you can look at these for a few minutes on your own before I show you how to do them. So take a minute and try them on your own, please. Pause the video and try them. Okay, I hope you tried these on your own. Let's look what they did here. 2 2/5, number 1, plus 1 3/6. Look at this answer. What did they do wrong? They added the denominator, not the right move. That's what they did wrong. What that should be is a denominator of 30, because the least common multiple of 6 and 5 is 30. 2 and 5 times 6 is 30. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 and 12/30 plus 1, and 6 times 5 is 30. 3 times 5 is 15. 15/30 equals 3 and 27/30, which, when we take care of the improper fraction, equals 4. Nope. No, that's right. It's still 3. It's not improper. Getting tired, guys. Sorry about that. 3 and 27/30. We have to simplify it, but it's not improper. So both 27 and 30 are divisible by 3. 27 divided by 3 is 9. 30 divided by 3 is 10. So 3 and 9/10. Let's change our color. And what did they do here? We have 2 plus 2, 2 and 4/5 plus 2 and 3/4. And they said 4 and 11/20. I agree with the 20ths, but the whole number appears to be incorrect, because I don't think they're going to end up with 11/20. So the whole number and the numerator is also incorrect. So if we have a denominator of 20, that would be 2 and 16/20 plus 2 and 15/20, which would equal 4 and 31/20, which, when we take care of this improper fraction here, would be 5 and 11/20. Number 3, 6 and 2/3 plus 3 and 1/3, they say equals 9. And what did they forget? They forgot fraction. So let's do this. It should be, they're both thirds. So let's just fix it right where it is. That should be 9 and 3/30. thirds, and 3/3 equals 1, so the final answer would be 10. Okay, let's look at the next, number 4 and number 5. So number 4, it looks like, let's do this problem and then decide what they did wrong. They've got 4 and 7/10 and 2 and 5/10. So 4 plus 2 is 6. 7 plus 5 is 12. So that is an improper fraction. 12/10 equals 1 and 2/10. And we can reduce the 2/10 to, because 2 goes into itself 1 time, goes into 10 5 times, to 1 and 1/5, which we add to the 6, which would be 7 and 1/5. So the whole number was incorrect. Let's look at number 5. 4 and 1/2 plus 4 and 4/5 equals 4 and 5/7. They added the numerators, but it looks like they added the denominators. And that is incorrect. That's not right. So what should that be? So our new denominator should be tenths, because tenths is the least common multiple of 2 and 5. So 4 and 5/10 plus, we don't have any whole number here, but we have 4/5, which would be 8/10, equals 4 and 13/10, which simplifies because we have to deal with this improper fraction. And we add that to the 4, which gives us 5 and 3/10. And let's look at number 6. So we have 4 and 1/2 plus 2 and 2/5 equals 6 and 1/2. Well, let's convert that to tenths and see what they did wrong. So 4, that should be 4 and 5/10 plus 6 and, I'm sorry, that should be a 2. 2 and 4/10, which would equal 6 and 9/10, and that would be the proper answer. So the fractions were written in the least common denominator was written incorrectly. So let's say the least common denominator incorrectly. And looks like they multiplied the denominators here. Not what you're supposed to do. So that would be correctly written. We need a denominator of 15, so it would be 3 and 5/15 plus 2 and 9/15, which would equal 5 and 14/15, and that's a final answer. Number 8, it looks like they did not compute the 1 plus 1 correctly. So that should be, and our new denominator there should be 12ths, so that should be 5 and 6/12 plus 3 and 1/12, which would equal 8 and 7/12. So multiplied the numerators. is what they did wrong. Or they didn't add, they multiplied. The 1 times 1 is 1. So instead, and number 9, almost done. And see, we have 3 1/4 plus 2 1/8. So we should have a denominator of eighths, but this numerator should be rewritten. And we'll show you how that looks. So that would be, eighths is the correct new denominator, so it would be 3 2/8 plus 2 1/8 would equal 3 plus 2 is 5, 2 plus 1 is 3/8. So that's the problem there. And now let's look at our final problem. And it appears we have 1 2/3 plus 8. And it looks like they did not add the whole numbers. We have an 8 here, but we have 8 plus 1 there, so the whole numbers were not added. So, 1 and 8 are 9. We're working in thirds. 3 plus 2, 2 plus nothing is 2. So it should be 9 2/3. And that's it. We had an exit ticket where we asked you to explain, let's go back to that, the difference between an improper fraction and a mixed number. And an improper fraction is one where the numerator is greater than the denominator. And a mixed number is a whole number and a fraction. So this was a long lesson, but there was a lot of repeat in this. So I hope that you worked hard. I hope you turned the video off and tried to do some of these on your own. And I know that as you continue to practice these, they will get easier and easier, and you will certainly be great at mathematics. So come for extra help session if you feel you need it, and don't forget to sign up for your one-on-one session. Have a wonderful day.